Hello everyone, Joel here. Life is short and turn-based strategy games easily devour 100 hours apiece. If you do the math, you literally only have time for a finite number of campaigns before you kick the bucket. So to save you from wasting your precious limited time on Earth on mediocre grids, we are breaking down the absolute titans of the genre. Let's kick things off with a game that demands you allocate a solid chunk of your remaining lifespan to managing giant overheating metal death machines. I'm talking about BattleTech. This isn't just about blowing stuff up, it's a glorious, stressful exercise in corporate middle management where your employees happen to be piloting multi-ton battle mechs. The core loop revolves around balancing your mercenary company's budget while praying your favorite pilot doesn't get headshot by a random PPC blast. Mechanically, it feels incredibly heavy and deliberate. You aren't just positioning units, you're managing heatsinks like an anxious, overworked technician. If you don't play this, you're missing out on the pure, unadulterated joy of stomping a tank into scrap metal.
With certainty.
Moving right along, if your bucket list doesn't include managing a squad of eccentric, heavily armed mercenaries who constantly complain about their pay, you need to rewrite it immediately. Jagged Alliance 3 perfectly revives that gritty, turn-based tactical action with a heavy dose of 90s action movie cheese. The combat here is wonderfully granular. You're manually targeting individual body parts, setting up overwatch lanes, and silently crying when your perfect stealth build gets blown because someone stepped on a rogue landmine. It feels incredibly satisfying because the environment is fully destructible. Plus, the banter between your mercs is pure gold. It's an absolute tactical masterpiece that deserves to be experienced by every strategy fans.
Some call it luck. I call it providence.
Prepare your acids! Gather all ye of...
Now, speaking of survival under terrible conditions, let's pivot to a frosty apocalypse where your moral compass goes to die. Wasteland 3 drops you straight into a frozen radioactive Colorado, putting you in charge of the Desert Rangers. This game is a total masterclass in narrative choice and consequence, dripping with darkly comedic writing that will make you question your own humanity. The combat feels punchy and brutal, heavily utilizing grid-based cover, bizarre weapons like frozen ferret launchers, and devastating tactical strikes. It's the kind of game where a simple side quest can spiral into accidentally electing a literal psychopath as a cult leader. Honestly, you cannot leave this mortal coil without experiencing its twisted humor and deep squad customization.
You're bold to attack our front gates, or perhaps merely...
On the flip side, if you prefer your existential dread wrapped in a gorgeous high fantasy political drama, look no further than Tactics Ogre Reborn. This is the undisputed granddaddy of modern tactical RPGs, completely overhauled to respect your precious time on Earth. The gameplay feels like a high-stakes chess match where every unit's facing direction and elevation drastically alters the combat math. You are constantly forced to make agonizing gray and gray moral choices that fundamentally alter the entire branching narrative. There are no clear good guys here, just beautifully written tragic conflict. The satisfaction of executing a flawless flank with your Griffin riders is unmatched. Leaving this world without seeing the gripping story of Denham Pavel unfold would be a genuine gaming tragedy. Next up is a game that finally crawled out of development hell earlier this year, and man, it was worth the wait. Mewgenics is Edmund Macmillan's absurd, chaotic cat-breeding tactical RPG. Think of it as a deeply disturbing turn-based version of Pokemon mixed with the Binding of Isaac. The mechanics are utterly unhinged, focusing heavily on genetic manipulation, cartoonish combat, and managing a house full of mutated felines. You're deploying cats with acid blood or extra limbs into tactical battles, and it feels as brilliantly frantic as it sounds. It's gross, it's highly addictive, and since it dropped in February 2026, the community has been losing its mind over the infinite build possibilities.
Find them in the dumpster or an alley.
Before we go into the list, I want to give you my recommendation for some of the best deals in instant gaming right now, especially if you're tight on budget. We knew that instant gaming always give us so many crazy deals for your favorite games, like these titles for example. I mean, can you believe these prices? If you love RPGs, there's no way you never heard of these masterpieces, and to think that you can get them under $10 or even $5, it's an absolute steal. All you have to do is just click my link in the description below, start searching for your favorite games and use the activation code on your chosen platform. By using my link, you're not only saving tons of money, but also helping me to support this channel. Alright then, let's get back into the list. If mutating cats isn't your brand of godhood, how about building an entire custom empire from scratch? Age of Wonders 4 masterfully fuses Deep 4X empire management with intense tactical turn-based grid battles. You can literally create a faction of cannibalistic toad people who practice holy magic, and the game just rolls with it. The combat feels incredibly magical, letting you cast world-altering spells that can turn the tide of a massive siege. Triumph Studios has been dropping incredible expansions recently, keeping the meta fresher than ever. The sheer sandbox freedom here means no two playthroughs are ever alike.
I find it so beautiful and
Shifting gears from traditional fantasy to the grim darkness of the far future, let's talk about living like an absolute monarch in space. Warhammer 40k Rogue Trader hands you the keys to a colossal void ship and lets you make decisions that can doom entire planets. Developed by Owlcat, the turn-based combat is a gloriously complex dance of positioning, momentum abilities, and covering your allies in burst-fire plasma shots. The mechanics feel deeply satisfying, especially when you unleash your Psyker and accidentally summon a literal daemon because of the Veil degradation. With all the massive patches and DLCs wrapping up recently, the game is in its absolute prime.
Not this greyer's job.
Die! Die! Die!
Are you surprised, Professor? This is the Holy Tomb.
But hey, maybe you want your tactical warfare paired with a side of high school teaching and cozy tea parties. Fire Emblem Three Houses is the ultimate social simulator meets tactical RPG that captured everyone's hearts. You play as a mercenary turned professor, guiding a class of students through deep grid-based battles while trying to prevent them from dying permanently. The combat mechanic feels incredibly smooth, emphasizing weapon triangles, gambits, and divine pulses to undo your stupid mistakes. The community is still arguing over who did nothing wrong, which tells you everything about how unforgettable these characters are. It's a masterfully emotional, multi-perspective war story that you simply must play.
one more success.
Put me in.
Speaking of keeping your soldiers alive, let's look at a brutal newcomer that just landed in early access this past February. MENACE is the latest masterpiece from the developers of Battle Brothers, swapping low fantasy mercenaries for a gritty sci-fi strike force. The gameplay feels incredibly grounded and unforgiving. You're deploying infantry, tanks, and mechs against terrifying alien threats where positioning, suppression, and squad morale are everything. If your squad leader panics, your entire line collapses. The community is already praising its tactical freedom and tense atmosphere, especially with the huge squad leaders update that just rolled out. It's punishingly difficult but immensely rewarding, making it a mandatory milestone for any strategy fan.
I want to see that out of you, 103rd. Whatever.
Now, if you want something that flies a bit under the radar but offers an absolute mountain of depth, check out Troubleshooter Abandoned Children. Often affectionately described as anime XCOM, this hidden gem places you in a vibrant, crime-ridden metropolis with a cast of superpowered heroes. The main selling point here is the absurdly deep mastery system. You can combine hundreds of different masteries to create completely broken character builds, turning your casual swordsman into an unstoppable dodging god. The turn-based combat feels incredibly dynamic and satisfyingly complex, with a massive storyline that actually respects its characters. It's a beautifully crafted labor of love from a dedicated indie team that you seriously need to experience before your gaming days are done.
즐거운 시간이었.
Naturally, we can't talk about deep tactical games without mentioning the ultimate digital meat grinder called Battle Brothers. This procedurally generated low-fantasy mercenary simulator is notorious for eating players alive. The mechanics feel intensely visceral. You are managing a band of peasants, beggars, and disgraced knights, trying to survive in a harsh, uncaring world. Every swing of an axe feels heavy, and losing your favorite veteran to a lucky goblin arrow is a rite of passage that causes genuine emotional damage. The permanent injuries and economic struggles keep you constantly on the edge of bankruptcy and ruin. It's an absolute masterclass in emerging storytelling and brutal gameplay that every strategy fan must conquer. Next, let's discuss an absolute legend that recently received the definitive royal treatment. Final Fantasy Tactics: The Ivalice Chronicles brings back the undisputed king of tactical RPGs with fully reworked HD visuals, complete voice acting, and brand new battle dialogue from the original writer. The legendary job system feels as brilliant as ever, letting you mix and match over 20 classes to break the game in the most satisfying ways possible. The narrative remains an emotionally devastating political masterpiece filled with betrayal, class warfare, and manipulation. Getting to experience Ramza and Delita's story with modern UI and polished features is a gaming dream come true.
I'm grateful.
Moving right along, let's tap into some pure nostalgia with a franchise that just made a massive comeback. Heroes of Might and Magic Olden Era launched into early access this April, and it's a stunning return to form. It perfectly captures that classic addictive hex-based combat and exploration loop we all grew up with. You're exploring maps, gathering resources, and building up massive armies across 6 unique factions. The gameplay feels incredibly tactical, demanding clever unit placement and precise spellcasting to win engagements without taking heavy casualties. The community is completely hooked on the new arena and matchmaking modes. It's a glorious revival that you absolutely need to play before your final turn is over. Of course, no tactical strategy bucket list is complete without the game that made missing a 95% chance a global meme. XCOM 2 is the absolute gold standard of tension and squad-based tactics. You are leading a guerrilla resistance against alien overlords, operating under constant pressure from turn timers and the looming Avatar project. The combat mechanics feel incredibly sharp, punchy, and utterly nerve-wracking. Every single move could be the difference between a flawless victory or watching your best soldier get strangled by a viper. It's a flawless, high-stakes adrenaline rush that you simply must survive at least once in your life.
Enemies down.
Rob left on that plate, girl.
Auntie Ethel, please.
Finally, we arrive at the absolute titan of the genre, a game so monumental it altered the industry landscape forever. Baldur's Gate 3 flawlessly adapts the Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition rule set into a sprawling, breathtaking tactical playground. The turn-based combat feels unbelievably organic, letting you push enemies off cliffs, detonate grease barrels, or talk your way out of fights entirely. The sheer level of player freedom and narrative reactivity is mind-blowing, backed by unforgettable companions and top-tier voice acting. Larian Studios has set a bar so high it might never be cleared again. If you play only one game on this list before your final rest, make it this one.